and Z, they all have this idea of looking for solution for the problem.
This call is now being recorded.
So some scholars tried solving the synoptic problem, so they suggested some solutions for the synoptic problem. So now let's look at some of the suggestions that some scholars put forward to solve this synoptic problem. As you rightly say, that if you have a problem, you need to solve it. So I'm going to talk about 4 of the solutions put forward by some scholars in an attempt to solve the synoptic problem. The first one is the Augustinian theory. The Augustinian theory is one of the solutions suggested to solve the synoptic problem. Now let's look at the problem a bit before we go to look at the solution. The problem is about when you look at the synoptic gospel, the first 3 gospels in the New Testament, you realize that you have a passage in one of the gospel and you cannot find that passage in the rest 2 of the gospel. Yet we could call them synoptic gospel, yet they are similar. At another point, you see that you have a passage in 2 of the gospel. The same passage, you can find it in 2 of the gospels, but you can have it in 1. You see? And another one is that you see a passage that is peculiar for one particular gospel, but you cannot find that passage in the other 2. So these are some of the problems. So now let's go and look at the solution. The first one is the Augustinian theory. The Augustinian theory
Please, you've muted yourself.
Now, the first solution suggested that I want to talk about is Augustinian theory. This Augustinian theory is telling us that traditionally the Gospel of Matthew was written first. So it means that the authors of Mark and Luke used Matthew as a source when they were doing their work. So many church fathers supported this theory that Matthew was written first. So the author of Matthew wrote first. After that, others followed to write. So the understanding is that Matthew wrote first. So it is the first gospel in the New Testament per the arrangement. That is why you see some passages in Matthew. You have those passages in both Mark and Luke because they copied from Matthew. My question is, does this solve the problem? Does this theory solve the problem? Class.
No,
I
sir.
don't think so. I don't think
No,
so,
sir.
sir.
Why?
Sir, because if we are saying that uh, those 3 books are all talking about the life of Jesus Christ, then the information that all the 3 books should bring should be the same. There shouldn't be any there shouldn't be discrepancies in the books, because if the books are all talking about Jesus Christ, then so what Matthew will see, Luke should also see the same thing, as well as Mark too. So it shouldn't be a situation whereby we are having different information, and they are all talking about the same life of one person. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Prince. Prince, your hand is up. So, Prince, let's hear you.
I'm the one who just spoke.
I'm the one who just spoke.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. So does this one solve the problem? That's the question. Okay. So let's go on. Let's look at another solution that was suggested to solve this synoptic problem. The second one that I'll talk about is the grief-back hypothesis. The grief-back hypothesis. This particular hypothesis, the grief-back hypothesis, points out that Matthew is the first gospel written. So it means that the grief-back hypothesis supports Augustinian theory that Matthew was written first. So for the grief-back hypothesis, Matthew was written first, followed by Luke. Luke wrote second, and lastly, Mark wrote. So for this hypothesis, when Mark was writing, he had the opportunity to use two sources. Source one, Matthew. Source two, Luke. So meaning that Mark copied from two sources. He copied from Matthew, he copied from Luke. This is what this hypothesis is telling us. So you can find Matthew's passage in Mark. You can find Luke's passage also in Mark, because Mark copied from these two sources. How do you think? Does this one solve the problem, the synoptic problem?
Yes, sir. I think in the way it explains it, it gives an explanation.
Is that Matthew who answered? I see Matthew's hand up.
Yes, sir. This is Matthew.
Oh, Matthew is saying that yes, Matthew was written first. Okay. And it's this one hypothesis, greater hypothesis. Matthew is saying that a bit solved the problem. Any other person? Any other person?
Yes, sir.
Okay, come. Daniel.
Yes. I think that I'm thinking that perhaps this does not completely solve the problem because Matthew has some material that cannot be found in Luke and then Matthew. So the problem is not completely solved.
Daniel, please can you come again? Your voice,
Yes.
your voice
What,
was full.
what I'm saying is that it does not completely solve the problem
Okay.
because of Mark exclusive materials that are not found in Luke and Matthew.
Okay. So now we have a diagram for this hypothesis. My assistant is going to post the slides for you, the soft copy, so don't worry, you have it. Now, the diagram for this hypothesis, you see Matthew up, Mark down, and Luke at the right side up. So you see an arrow coming from Matthew to Mark. An arrow coming from Matthew to Mark, indicating that the author of Mark drew some material from Matthew. And you see another arrow coming from Luke towards Mark, meaning that Mark again copied from Luke. So two arrows are pointing towards Mark. Now you see an arrow coming from Matthew to Luke, telling you that when Luke was writing, the author of Luke was writing, he took some material from Matthew. Hence the arrow pointing towards Luke. The arrows are very important. So when you want to talk about this hypothesis, you need to support it with a diagram, the diagram. And when you're doing the diagram, be very conscious about the arrows. Whatever the arrows point to, meaning that a material has gone into that person. So that is the meaning of the arrow. Now let's go to the third solution, which is the two-source theory. The two-source theory is also propounded in an attempt to solve the problem. Yes, I can see my assistant who is doing a very good work. He just posted it. Yes. The slides are there. I mean, is there. The material is there. The soft copy is there for you to see. You can see it now on your screen. Yeah, that is the hypothesis concerning Griesbach. So let's move on to the two-source theory. The two-source theory is saying that the authors of Matthew and Luke, they used two sources when they were composing their gospels. The author of Matthew, the author of Luke, they used two sources, hence the name the two-source theory. For this theory, Mark was the first to be written. Mark wrote first. Then after that, Matthew and Luke copied from Mark. The two-source theory is again telling us that the first major source that Matthew and Luke used was Mark. So they copied first from Mark. And since they like copying, they are not satisfied. They went ahead and copied from a different source. And this different source aside Mark is called quail. The quail is a Greek term meaning source. The spelling is Quelle. You have it in the slide, so I will not bother so much. So letter Q, capital Q, is used to indicate this source, the Q source. So Matthew copied from Mark, and again Matthew copied from this Q source. And this Q source was not available to the author of Mark. So Mark does not have this particular source. So you cannot find the Q source in the Gospel of Mark, but you can find the Q source in both Matthew and Luke. That is the reason why you see some passage in both Matthew and Luke Gospels, but you not have that passage in the Gospel of Mark, because when the author of Mark, the Gospel of Mark, was writing, he did not have the privilege of this Q source. They are trying to solve that problem. And we have a diagram in support to the two source theory. So for the diagram, you see Mark at the top and Q on the right side of Mark at the top. Bottom, you see Matthew at the bottom of Mark and Luke at the bottom of Q. And you realize that there is an arrow coming from Mark straight to Matthew, telling us that the author of Matthew picked material from Mark and used it. When you look up to Q, you see an arrow coming from Q to Matthew, telling you that the author of Matthew copied an aspect of Q into his work. For that matter, you are having two arrows showing towards Matthew using two sources, hence the name the two source theory. Again, you see an arrow moving from Mark straight to Luke, meaning that Luke used material from Mark, and another arrow moving from Q towards Luke, telling you that Luke copied from from Q. You realize that there is no arrow from Q towards Mark, meaning that no item of Q can be sourced in Mark. Any comment? And my question is, does this two source theory solve the problem, the synoptic problem? Yeah, Daniel, Dapa, raise up your hand.
Prof, yeah, thank you very, very much. I've completed Bible school for a long time. But how you're teaching us, I think it's better let's study from neutral so that doctrine.
We can't hear your voice clearly. Can you come again?
Hello. You get me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I said I've
Yeah,
Hello.
say,
Please,
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
you have
you
to
feedback from
mute
your side. So
yourself.
if you could mute and
Hello.
then we
Prof,
listen to the question before you put your mic on.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
please
sir.
speak. We can hear you.
Yeah, what I was saying is that indeed I like what you're teaching us. And I said personally I've completed Bible school for a long time. But we were not taught this way. We were taught doctrinarian. But you are teaching us the rare Bible. So kudos. And I think it is better for somebody who wants to understand the Bible very well to attend a university and study the Bible neutrally other than dogmatic or doctrine. So thank you very much.
Okay. Any other person? Now, does this second source theory solve the problem? But the one who answered the question, I'm also teaching in a seminary. Yeah, this is how I teach. So, but I don't know the seminary that we're talking about anyway. I teach in a seminary, but I'll not mention the name of the seminary. But it's the way
Hello,
I teach, and they also like it anyway.
hello, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Does this solve the problem?
Okay. Let me.
Hello, sir.
Mhm. Michael, you want to speak? Oh, I can hear. Okay.
Hello.
Oh, I mute my mic. I can hear you. So
Okay, sir. Like I want to ask my brother Dawa, which of the Bible schools did he attended?
I
Because
think you should bring this one to a close.
Yes,
I
yes.
think that is why
Very serious.
I say that is why I quickly clear the air that I teach, and actually I teach in Bible school. Yes.
because if you do
They call me to do some kind of part time. I go there and I teach. I teach New Testament. I teach in that Bible college, and this
if
is
you
the
do
way I
theology
teach.
at the university, they
So
teach you.
Michael, please. We shouldn't stick to where he was saying. Please, let's go to
yes, no,
the
that one
main
don't,
idea.
you should not
Please.
mention it. You should don't mention it. Okay, let's go. You haven't answered my question. No, the two source theory does it solve the problem?
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Sir,
Yeah,
Go
sir.
ahead.
yeah, I don't think any of these theories. Anyway, we are yet to establish if there are more. But I believe that none of these theories will solve the problem since there are divergent views. And I'm also looking at it from this way. These gospel authors, were they witnesses to Jesus Christ? And if yes, then it means that they kind of were reporting or are reporting whatever they saw. And like when you pass on an information to people, even who are about five in number. Interestingly, if you're not lucky, by the time it gets to the fifth person, then it may have changed. So if indeed they were all witnesses, exclusive to say in literal means one would say everyone and his eye, everyone and his ear. So what they may have experienced from Jesus Christ may be different. And for that matter, it may account for differences in maybe the way they were reporting. Thank you.
Okay, Ado, your hand is up. You can talk.
Sir, please, I just spoke. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, you see, you are saying if those who wrote were eyewitnesses. Actually, after the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, it took about 30 to 65 years before the New Testament was written. It took some time before they started writing. Uh-huh. So I mentioned earlier that when they realized that the eyewitnesses, and then they started writing. So the answer can be yes or no. Can be yes or no. And since at the initial stage, it was it was in an oral form passed on. It could mean that the eyewitnesses pass it on to a particular generation that some of them wrote um, the gospel. Now let's move on.
Please say,
Yeah.
can we say that all the doctors are reported since they didn't witness Jesus Christ? It was reported and then they wrote it.
Yeah, that's what I said that it is passed on the oral, like the tale, the traditional tale that you have, like an ancestry. I'm not saying that the gospels are an ancestry. An ancestry in the evening, the elderly people just gather the children, they pass it on. Then after that, those people pass on. Then the children grow up and they pass it on. It was like that form. That's why I say that initially the gospel were in hot oral stage. From the oral stage before it was written, they were passed on. And I mentioned that it could happen that the main eyewitnesses passed it on. And what we are doing is just introduction to the New Testament. If you come to the main work of it, you look at the authors who wrote blah blah blah, a whole debate. Then we read that yes, some were written by apostles, some were not written by apostles. So let's just focus on the theories that we're looking at, the theories that were propounded to solve the. Let's just concentrate on them and see if what we are discussing, the theory that we're discussing, and see which of them actually solve the problem. And let's leave the authorship of the gospel. Let's leave it for now. We come to them. We come to the authorship. The authors, we come to the authors. But for now, let's leave the authors and concentrate on the theories trying to solve the synoptic problem. Is that fine?
Yes, please.
Good. Then let's go on. Now
Hello,
let's look
hello,
at
Doc.
another one. Oh, somebody want to talk? Okay, come.
Yes, sir. I wanted to find out if there has been any findings that points to the presence of the Q source that we are referring to. Thank you.
Please come again.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if there has been any evidence that points to the fact that there existed some Q source which some of them copied from. Thank you.
Okay, we are doing academic work. And one beauty of academic work is research work. We research before you report. So scholars that are talking about this, that the Q is a German word. They did a research work before they write or before they wrote. Yeah. So they did a kind of research work before they wrote. So someone's research work may be limited pertaining to the topic, the area the person wants to cover. And that person will go beyond that one to add up. That is where in academia we add onto knowledge. We add onto knowledge. Somebody will start, then another person will come and add up to it. So the quick source was there, they saw it. That's why they are trying to bring it to us. Four source theory. The four source theory. And this theory supports the two source theory that Mark wrote first. And if you say that Mark wrote first, we are talking about the priority of Mark or Markan priority. So in biblical study, in the study of Gospels, when you hear the term Martian priority, know that the person is saying that Matthew wrote first, or the author of Matthew wrote first. That is what it's called Martian priority. When you hear Markan priority or the priority of Mark, it means that Mark wrote first. So the fourth sub theory is of Markan priority, same as the two source theory. So the fourth source theory is saying that Mark wrote first, and the authors of Matthew and Luke used Mark as their main source for their work. And apart from Mark, Matthew and Luke again used the Q source. So it means that the fourth source theory supports the two source theory that there was a Q source that both Matthew and Luke used. Then they were not satisfied. They like copying so much. So after copying from Mark and Q, the author of Matthew chanced on a special source that he used. And this particular source that the author of Matthew got was not available for the author of Luke and Mark. So Matthew had this peculiar source for himself, and he used it to add up to what he copied from Matthew, from what he copied from Mark, and what he copied from Q. And he got another source that he copied from, peculiar to him, plus what he himself used. So that source that Matthew used is tagged as M source. M source. And Luke also, after copying from Mark and Q, Luke also had a secret source where he copied from. And that secret source wasn't available for Mark and Matthew. The very reason why you don't have that source, that material in Matthew and Mark. Meaning that the peculiar source for Matthew, you can find it in Mark, you can find it in Luke. And the secret source for Luke, you don't have that verse or that passage in Matthew, you don't have it in Mark. To answer the question why Matthew is having a source, and you cannot have that Matthew source in Mark and in Luke. And to answer the question why you have a source in Luke, but you cannot find it in Mark and Matthew. So this is what the fourth source theory is telling us. Now you have a diagram in support. So the diagram for the source, the four source theory, when you look at the diagram that you have on your screen, you have M on the left. On the right side of M, you have Mark. That on the right side of Mark, you have Q. On the right side of Q, you have L. At the bottom, you see that you have Matthew at the bottom of Mark and Luke at the bottom of Q. Let me explain. You realize that there is an arrow from Mark to Matthew, meaning that Matthew copied from Mark, using Mark as the major source, the main source. Then after that, the author of Matthew again copied from the Q source. So there is an arrow coming from Q to Matthew. Then Matthew, who was not satisfied, the author, went to M source, copied from M source. So you see an arrow coming from M source descending on Matthew. Now, when you go to Luke, you see an arrow coming from Mark to Luke, meaning that the author of somebody is saying that it's not showing. I think, but can some of you say it?
Yes, please.
Very clear, sir.
Very clear. Some people are saying it very clear. It's okay. Maybe with time you'll see it clear. My assistant is working tirelessly
Swipe to the top of their screen.
He is working tirelessly for all of you to see it.
It's not showing. If it's not showing at your end, just end the call and then rejoin.
Good. Thank you for that suggestion. So you will see that Luke copied straight from Q. Again, so Luke copied straight from Mark, the main source. Secondly, Luke, the author, copied from Q source. So arrow is dropping from Q to Luke. Then you see L source up there. The L source, there is an arrow stretching from L source to Luke, meaning that Luke copied from this source also. So that is the diagram in support of the fourth source theory. My question: does the fourth source theory solve the synoptic problem? I will mute my mic so that you respond. My question is, does the fourth source theory solve the synoptic problem? I'm going to mute my mic so that you can speak.
Yeah, so I think that it couldn't solve it in the sense that since they didn't witness Jesus Christ, so it was reported. So any one of them wrote what he was told. So it couldn't solve the problem, to my view.
Class, what do you think about this answer? Somebody said similar thing in the previous way, but I didn't address it. So the person brought it up again. Now I'll address this. But class, first of all, what do you think? Because I explained earlier how the way the New Testament was written, how the gospel was written. I even said that after some years before they started writing, and I even mentioned how they got the message to write. So please, class, the last speaker, what do you think about what he said?
I think.
Okay, any other person?
Hello.
I think he didn't refer to what you said earlier. But to me, the fourth one, I think this one solves the problem. because with this theory, is trying to justify where all those writers got their informations from. So if I get an information from a place that you didn't get, that means what I will write will be different from what you will also write. And mind you, they are not all sitting at a table or discussing and they are writing. Each of them are writing from a different place. So where I get my source of information is what I will use to write. So I think once they are having different sources of some are having different sources, they will write from what they got, and then I think this solves the problem.
Okay, any other
Thank you.
student, any other person?
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that what he, the speaker was saying, does not actually align with what we are saying, because we are talking about what accounts for the differences, and that might sort of point us to the authenticity of what they have written. So we cannot just throw away what they have written because they were not there, but being able to find out the source of the differences and reconcile that will help us to look at their works more carefully. Thank you.
All right. Yes. Many scholars think that the fourth source theory is the best option for solving the synoptic problem. Why? Because you see material in Matthew and Luke, but that particular passage is not recorded by Mark. Is there? Why? The answer is that the material that is similar to Matthew and Luke, they got it from the Q source. And Matthew did not have chance to copy from Q source. So there is no way you can find that passage in Mark. That problem is solved. That question is answered by going for the Q source. Now, the second question, why is it that you see a passage in only Matthew? That passage you can get it in Mark. You will not find it. You won't find it in Luke. The answer is that Matthew got a secret place, a secret source, and he copied that passage from that place. So Luke did not have it in his work. Mark did not have it in his work. Question number 2 answered. When you go to the fourth source theory, that is the M source, answer that question. Then why is it that Luke is having a passage peculiar to Luke alone? You can't find it in Matthew. You don't have it in Mark. Adding. The answer is that the author of Luke, had a secret source called the L source, which was not available for the author of Mark and the author of Matthew. They couldn't get this source. So this source, you can only have it in Luke. You can't get it in either Matthew or Mark. So these 3 questions, the fourth source theory try to address this question. So scholars think that this particular theory best solve the problem. What is our time? It's already 8 o'clock, right?
6.
8:19 p.m.
Oh, I thought
8:20.
it's not 7. Okay. So I'll pause here for you to bring your comment from the beginning to the end. All that we have discussed, we learned this evening. Let's go through them quickly before we say bye-bye. Few minutes for us to close. So quickly, let's review, if you like, all that we did this evening. Any question, any concern, any confusion anywhere. But if somebody is saying that all the authors did not witness all that Jesus did, so we can't believe what they've written. Well, that idea, that view, we should look at it again. we are just looking at the solutions that some scholars try to propound so that the problem concerning synoptic will be solved. So we go straight to the solution or the hypothesis or the theories and see which one of them answer the quiz, the problem, solve the problem. Yeah, so if you have any other question, let's hear you. Let's all address the question before we go. Don't go to bed sad that there is a portion that you could not get. Let me unmute. Let me mute my mic so that you can talk. Yeah, Emmanuel, your hand is up.
Yes, sir. Good evening, please. Please, my question is, if none of these writers met Jesus Christ, or if Jesus had died before they wrote these books, how come they were able to get the exact words of Jesus, where in some books you see them quote it in red? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Please, you can talk.
Oh, okay. So I wanted a little clarification. At first, had it not been today, I thought that the Matthew or the author of Matthew was the same Matthew of Jesus. But from the study today, I can confidently say, or if I'm mistaken, that he is not the same Matthew, but a different one. Thank you.
Hello, I am back. Sorry, I am back. So those who raise up their hand, please start talking.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Go on.
Sir, please, if the fourth theory or the four source theory how it's explaining, this means that all the authors of the Mark, Matthew, and Luke, they copied from each other. Is that not so, please?
No, the two source theory and the four source theory, if you look at it carefully, you realize that it was Mark who wrote first before Matthew and Luke copied from Mark. Meaning that Mark didn't copy anything from Matthew and Luke. But when you go to the other theories, yes, they say Mark copied from Matthew. Is that fine? Have you got it? The second source, the two source theory and the fourth source theory are saying that Mark wrote first before Matthew and Luke copied from him. So if you see that they all copy from one another, yes, no. When you come to the two source theory and the fourth source theory, Matthew didn't copy. But when you go to the Griff-Back hypothesis and Augustinian theory, yes, yes. When you come to the two source theory, and the fourth source theory, Mark didn't copy. pertaining to the two source theory and the fourth source theory. Mark didn't copy. So for you to say that they all copy from each other, that one is not there. But when you come to the Augustinian theory and the Griesbach hypothesis, yes, Mark copied from Matthew. Daniel, your hand is up. You can talk.
Thanks, Prof. Please, I want to ask this question. What is the meaning of when we say the gospel according to, maybe they say John or Matthew? What's the meaning of according to that they use the word for them? Thank you.
Please, can you come with your question again? There was a noise in the back.
Hello.
If you are using earpiece, remove them. You are giving us
Hello.
feedback.
Prof.
Okay, so Prof, what he was saying was that if you are being told or if you hear something like the gospel according to maybe Saint Luke or the gospel according to John, the gospel according to Mark, what is the meaning of according to used in that sentence? That is what he said.
Okay, that's good. I like your question.
Thank you.
Um, let me go this way. When you take your English Bible and go to the New Testament, I have them in front of me. I think you also have them. Um, uh, I don't know. Okay, I have RSV. Say the gospel according to Matthew. Okay, let me go to Mark. The gospel according to Mark. The RSV is there. When you take the your vernacular, your local language Bible, I don't know if you see that kind of thing there. You just see Matthew. Some, how do you call it? Some versions. You just see Matthew. That is point one I want to talk about before I go on. Can you hear
Hello,
me?
sir.
Can you hear me?
And hello, sir.
Can you hear
Sir,
me?
we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that according to when you come to the Greek New Testament, which I have in front of me, is kata. Kata is a preposition, which means according. Which means according to. I don't know if I understand your question properly before I want to answer. You said, why do you have according to, according to? So they translated straight from the Greek into the English. So that according there is a Greek preposition, which means according to. So it means that Greek preposition, if a Greek noun follows it, and the Greek noun is in accusative case, which I don't bother you. I mean, I don't bother you. Accusative case, then it will mean according to. So I don't want to go deep. So yes, that is how they put it there for us. According to, I don't know if I understood your question before I'm trying to
Sir,
answer it. Yeah.
sir, please, I would like to share what is on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So with what I have on my mind in my simple explanation in a layman's
Okay.
way. Yes, when we say the gospel according to Mark, I think that simply put, the gospel that was written by Mark, the
Yes.
gospel according to Luke, I explain that the gospel written by Luke. So in the Catholic Church, for example, I'm using the Catholic Church because they usually do say such things during their readings on during Mass. Catholics and Anglicans especially. So when they are about to read maybe the Bible, they'll say the gospel according to Mark. Then the whoever the lector who is reading will read that particular gospel. So in a layman's language, simply put, when we say the gospel according to Mark, the gospel according to John, the gospel according to Luke or Matthew, simply put, the gospel written by Mark, Luke, John, or Matthew. Thank you.
Thomas and Christiana, your hands are up. Come.
I also have a different view concerning what our lady just said. For to me to that according to Mark that we are seeing there, I see the Mark the book as a name of a book. So let's say according to Akiola, meaning the Akiola book that we are talking about. So it could be that the writers of Mark is not the real Mark who wrote the book. Matthew was written by a different person, but the book has been titled as Mark or Matthew. So if you say the book according to Matthew, meaning according to that book, this is what is there. That's what. So we are not talking about human beings, but we are talking about the actual writings, the book, the writings that has been entitled as the person's name. That's what I.
Okay, any other person?
Sir,
Yeah,
please.
so I think no, I think what the lady said, I do agree with her because in our various churches we do studies according to Matthew, according to uh, Luke and Co. So we are referring to the writer, the book himself, the book by Matthew. So I think the lady is right.
I also go with my brother. Um, so I can attest to the fact that my question that I first asked, perhaps Prof didn't hear. I asked, had it not been today, I thought that the original writer of Matthew was the Matthew who once walked with Jesus as a disciple. But today I have clarified it myself that he isn't. Therefore, I can say that with what my brother is saying, when we say according to, then we are referring to the written work and not the author.
Okay, so
Cynthia.
if it is the written work or the author, it is still Mark, it is still Luke, it is still John. So we are referring to Mark, Luke, and John.
Okay, that's Emanuela. Cynthia, can we hear you?
Okay, so when you were talking, I heard that you said in our local Bible, that is our tree Bible. So me, I have the tree Bible here, and what they have written is Asempano said Matthew Troy my. So here is the same thing. When you say it in English, it's the same thing according to
All
that
right.
is the gospel according to
All right.
Matthew.
I'm
Okay.
happy for that short research. Thomas, your hand is still up. Thomas, your hand is still up. Okay, Dogbe Yao Emmanuel.
Yes, sir. I also have a suggestion small to make. Now, when we say the one who said according to, okay, it's like it's making reference to the owner of the book. Because when I take my Ewe Bible, for instance, they make reference to maybe the four gospels. Maybe, excuse me to say, Nyanyela, Abba, Alessi, Johannes, Ngule, and so when you say John, the scripture written by John, so it means that when you say according to, it's not any other person but John who wrote that book. So that is my idea.
I'm happy for the tree version. That's yours. Senior Matthew Troy. Then we have the Ebe version. Nyanyela, Nyanye Abalasi, Matthew Ngule, and okay.
Yes.
So, it's 8 o'clock.
So
We
if you say
we are coming to pick it one after the other, the gospel, the authors, and people say that the names that they put on it, Matthew wrote it, Mark wrote it, Luke wrote it. And when people debate against the authorship, we call it academic work. It means that they also did some research and realized that it was a different person who wrote the book. But hold that view as the tradition, as the church tradition also have the view that the Gospel of Matthew was written by Matthew. The Gospel of Mark was written by Mark. The church traditional view is all that you are saying. The every man say it. The account lady also say it. According to that is the church tradition, and we cannot throw away the church tradition out of our academic work. So hold it that way. You are not wrong if you have that view. I think this one settled the question. Don't throw that view off that the Gospel of Matthew was not written by Matthew. It was written by Kweku, and they put Matthew. No, hold the traditional church view. And next week, God's willing, we come to the Gospel one after the other, and we're going to look at the authorship. We pick Matthew, we look at the authorship. We look at the authorship. But you have laid the foundation, which is a very good foundation today for the authorship. Please, course rep, try and do the WhatsApp page after we close. Do it and put me on it.
Please, I think that we have a morality platform, and almost all of us are on that platform. So we should change the name and then add you to that platform. I think so.
Morality, what does it mean? Is it a course?
Yes, it's a course we took.
No. Wow. That course you took, I think the lecturer is on that particular platform.
Yes, sir.
No. Create this platform, Introduction to New Testament, 2026.
Okay.
Is it switch course or it's a switch course, right?
Yes, sir.
Note it. If you can switch, some can short it ISWT or something like that. 2020 or 26 Introduction to New Testament, so that I'll be on it. My assistant Becca will be on it, so that we can interact on that platform. Thank you.
Sir, I will do so, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay. We passed 8:30. I can see Dogbe clapping and Dorcas clapping, meaning that bye-bye. Have a sound sleep. Please do the assignment. The first assignment, do it. And let me add this one. the authorship issue. Please try and do it before you come. We are all learning. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sir, please, can we have the course manual?
Madam Emmanuel, please send a message on WhatsApp, please. Madam Emmanuel.
So you have the slide, or what is it? The slide or so and so on the
course manual.
They'll post it on the
platform.
The page for you, the platform, yeah.
All right, thank you.
And since the course, the lecture is being recorded, when we come for lectures, I'll ask that they can share it on the screen too. Okay, bye-bye. Have a sound sleep. See you next week.
Thursday. Madam Emmanuel, please send a message on WhatsApp, please.